I told him a few weeks ago, I said, I think what I would like to do is just kind of share my final thoughts, if that's okay. And there may or may not have been some jokes about, senior final thoughts as in senior citizen. Final thoughts, so thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Some days, I guess some days it feels that way. So I wanted to do that, and as I was thinking through this, I started reading in Romans 12. The writer Paul, the Apostle Paul, and I think everybody's pretty familiar with Paul, but Paul, he killed Christians for a living. That's what he's doing. He was completely convinced that he was in the right because the teachings of Jesus and the followers, it threatened their religion, and he thought it was going to just tear everything down and it was going to mess everything up. So that's what he did. He went around persecuting Christians, but then something happened, because this was after Jesus had lived, taught, been the example, and then he died on the cross for us. He was crucified, and then he rose again, and then he had ascended back to the Father in heaven. Paul meets Jesus on the road one day, now not in his earthly body, in his glory, and Paul is blinded, and don't worry, he got better. But man, God just absolutely just floors him. He's on his way to persecute Christians, and God stops him, and basically he's saying, "What are you doing? You're persecuting me." Paul's like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" He's like, "You're persecuting me," and so Paul then he realizes that Jesus is Lord, that he is God, and so he becomes a follower of Christ, and he spends the rest of his life doing everything within his power to lead others to Jesus, to point others to Jesus. Plants church after church after church after church. And so in one of his letters that he's writing to one of the churches, the church in Rome, he begins to share. And so as I was reading this, I was thinking, oh, well, that's a final thought I would like to give, and that's a thought I would like to give. And so it just kind of worked out. So we're going to walk through that, a portion of that in Romans 12 real quick, and I'm just going to share some of my final thoughts with you. Some of them are going to sound familiar. Some of you have heard some of these over the years, but here's how Paul starts when he's writing. He said, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God." A sacrifice is something that you give up, right? You give that away, you lay down your rights to that. And he said, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. Kenneth, he touched on that earlier. Not to just conform to culture, and Paul is warning them, don't conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. How many times have we wondered, man, I just wish I knew what God wanted me to do in this situation. I just wish I knew what God, whatever. So here's my first final thought for you. The closer you get to God, the more everything else makes sense. And I know some of you have heard that from me over the years, but right there it's so clear. He says, hey, if you do these things, if you live your life as a living sacrifice, that is your true and proper worship, and you do not conform to the pattern of the world, but you're transformed by the renewing of your mind, then you're going to be able to test what God's will is. Man, we want to know what God's will is, then we need to get close to him, because the closer we get to him, the more everything else makes sense. Not only the good things and his will for us, but when we walk through the hard things and the difficult times, it begins to make more sense, because we're just like, you know what, God, this is something that you're going to work in and through me, and I'm going to be drawn close to because of it. He goes on to write, "For by the grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought." And that's a little countercultural right now. Right? But here's the thing, it always has been. Because we've always thought of self. We've always put self first. I mean, mankind has always done that. And so but And so we still need to remember that. That's why God, this word is alive. And it pertains to us even today. I mean, words that Paul wrote thousands of years ago. He says, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment. Like, let's be smart about this. Am I really better than that person? You know, because I'm really have been shown so much grace and forgiveness. It says, think of yourself in sober judgment in accordance with the faith that God has distributed to each of you. No matter how far I am on this journey, and no matter how far along any of us are on this journey that we're walking with Christ, we have to be careful that we don't kind of look back, or we see somebody who's just starting this and maybe look down on them because of something that they're doing, or think that, you know, well, I'm entitled because I'm whatever. He says, because we need to remember, man, how much we have had the grace that we've been shown, and the forgiveness that. So that leads me to my second thought here tonight is we have to care more about people than our preferences. Because as the further we move along in this thing, and the longer that we've been in this, sometimes we think, well, I've been doing this a while, or maybe if we've been serving or whatever, then we think, man, I deserve this, or I should be entitled to this, or I should, or, you know, I don't like the way that's being done, or I don't like the way this was, this looks, or that's not as fun as it was, or whatever. But we have to look, is this about me? Is this about my preferences, or is this about others? Is it about people? We've got to care more about people than our preferences. I tell my kids a lot of mornings when they're getting ready to start their day, not every morning, but I say, hey, if you want to have a great day, make it about others. If you want to have a great day, make it about others. And I would say the same thing to you. If you want tomorrow to be a great day, man, make it about others. He goes on to write, for just as each of us has one body with many parts, okay, hands and feet and nose and ears, with many parts, these parts do not all have the same function. You know, when people say, you know, talk to the hand, it's not because that's how they listen the best, right? We know that all the parts of our body all are different. But just like that they don't have the same function, so in Christ, though we are many, we form one body. And all of those parts belong to the other parts. It's, you know, all the parts of my body belong to my brain, and my heart belongs to all the other parts of my body, and these hands belong to these legs, right? And so that's how it is with the body of Christ. And he goes on to say, just like these parts don't all do the same thing, we have different gifts according to the grace God has given to each of us. We talked about faith a minute ago. Faith is built, but grace is just given. God has given us, just by His grace, He has given us talents and abilities, and He has given us things that we're able to do that maybe somebody else cannot do, or maybe they could do, but it wouldn't be the same, or maybe you feel like sometimes, well, I can't do what that person does. But He's given us different gifts according to His grace, just what He has chosen to bless us with and to equip us with. Which leads me to my next thought. God, and this is something that I think we all need to be reminded of sometimes, because we have a tendency to put ourselves down. God isn't looking for extraordinary people. He's not looking for extraordinary people. He's not looking for you to be this superhuman person that can just do these incredible things and then, hey, look, God, what I did. No, He wants ordinary people that He can be extraordinary through. Anybody ever feel like you're just not, you just can't cut it? Like you're just not good enough to do whatever, anything? Anybody ever just feel like you're not good enough to accomplish something that you're trying to accomplish? Or specifically, like if you feel like God is wanting to use you in a specific way and you just feel like, man, I can't do what they do. I can't step on that stage and sing like Emmy does. I can't play drums like Lawson. I don't have the technical savvy that Robbie and Miles do. And I'm not able to talk to people and just to be, outspoken and all that like so-and-so is or so-and-so. And sometimes I'm just not cut out for that. But God's not looking for the people who are already equipped, who already have it together. He's looking for ordinary people like us. He's looking for broken, messed up people like us. People with baggage. People with a past. People who can't cut it. He's looking for us so that He can do extraordinary things through us. Because when those extraordinary things take place, there's no way that we can get the credit, or there's no way that we can take that credit anyway, because we just know, oh, that's got to be God, because I can't. I couldn't have done that. And God receives all the glory. Goes on to write, and he's saying, hey, so if your gift is prophesying, then prophesy. And that just means hearing from God and saying, and sharing what God is speaking to you. If it's prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. Now there's a word that I love. And any of you who have ever come through Remix, or any of you that have ever, Elliot's grinning ear to ear back there. Any of you who have ever come through Remix or are part of Remix now or whatever, you know that I love this word. I love this word, serve. Not serve me, or not, do something for me, but to be a part of serving others. And sometimes that may look like the to-do list I give you, okay? But I promise you, it's not so that I'm going to sleep better or eat better or just, feel like, yeah, they did that for me. No, it's because there's a bigger picture. And that brings me to my next point. And you've heard me say this, guys. You are at your best when you're serving others. You are absolutely at your best when you're serving others, and I'll tell you why. Because I believe that's when you are the most like Christ. You may agree or disagree, but when we spend our life serving ourselves, snatch and grab everything that we can for ourselves, take advantage of every opportunity for ourselves. We're trying to, just get all of the whatever for ourselves. When we serve ourselves, it always leaves us empty. And a lot of you have found that, which is why you're not doing it now, right? I mean, we found that. It's like, man, if I'm just serving myself all the time, why if I'm getting what I want all the time, why do I feel so empty? And so you've flipped that. So some of you have found that to be true. But here's the reason I say that's when we're the most like Christ, is because Jesus set that example. Okay, it's right before Passover. And Jesus he's eating a meal with his disciples. And it was customary, okay, and necessary when you would, because of the climate, the landscape, the terrain, or whatever, okay, when you would get to someone's house, you would be covered with dust and dirt, and just from the road, because you had walked, and so your feet were dirty, and they probably were sweaty. And so what happens when dirt mixes with sweat? It's fantastic, right? It is just good stuff. So it was customary, and like I said, necessary, that when you would enter somebody's house, one of the first things you would do is you would go ahead and take off your sandals, your shoes, or whatever, and then you would sit there and you would wait as the servant of the house, or even maybe a slave, would wash the dirt from your feet, so that you would be presentable to come into the house, so that you wouldn't be tracking mud on mama's new rug, okay? And so this was a job for the servants or the slaves, and they would do this. They would wash the people's feet, and they would get them all cleaned up, and they would dry them, and then they could go on in to the house. So Jesus is he's celebrating the Passover meal with his disciples, and I want to read to you what Jesus does. So Jesus got up. It actually says, I put in parentheses Jesus, because that's who he's talking about. So he got up from the meal, and he took off his outer clothing. This would be like if I had on a nice suit jacket or something, or I had on a nice button-up shirt and I was getting ready to go like carry in wood, or I was getting ready to go dig a hole or whatever. I would take that off, okay, and I would remove that because, you know, that's nice and it represents something, and it, right? For Jesus, I mean, he was certainly recognized as rabbi, as teacher. I mean, he had been at this a long time. He was recognized as master. Not master as in like slave master or like a harsh boss, but to the disciples. They called him Lord. They called him master. When he removed this outer garment, it was not just so that he didn't, that he was getting ready to do something, he was afraid he would get it dirty or whatever, but he was showing them that he was laying down his entitlement. He was laying down the authority that he so deserved, the position, the status that he so deserved. He removed that and he laid that aside, and watch what he does. He wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and he began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. Our Jesus. Can you imagine? And we can't. We absolutely can't imagine what's going through their minds at this time, at this moment, because Jesus gets up. Lord, Master, Rabbi. He is the teacher. We follow him. We listen to him. We support him. We back him. And he lays down that lordship. He lays down that entitlement that he deserves. He takes a towel and he begins to wash the disciples' feet. Now, chances are their feet had already been washed before they came into the house, and it wasn't about that. He was taking the position of servant. He was taking the position of slave. And he began to wash their feet. And some of them struggled with this, especially Peter. He was like, well, I cannot let you do this. And Jesus was like, you have to, if you want any part with me, you've got to let me do this. And Peter's like, oh, well, in that case, man, my hands and my head, and just pour it on, because I am with you in everything. Jesus was setting the example. He said, no matter who you are not greater. And he set the example to serve. So, that's why I love this word, serve. Because when we serve others, we are the most like Jesus. Mark, he wrote this in his account. And he wrote down what Jesus said in Mark chapter 10. He said, whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, many of you know this, but to serve. He did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. We continue reading in Romans, like I said, what Paul was writing. If it's teaching, then teach. Do that. He's gifted us in different ways. So whatever it is, serve in those ways. If it's to encourage, give encouragement. If it's giving, give generously. And there's another word that I love around here. And if you've been a part of Remix for very long, do we ever talk about giving? No. Okay. Any of you ever heard us talk about giving? Yeah. So, if you, I don't know, Jess, if you're close over there, hit that light. So over here, there are kind of our Speed to Light display. We've been celebrating what God has been doing through Speed to Light. But over there, you see these different plaques, and you probably can't read them from where you're at. But those plaques are from all different years of just recognition of what Remix has done as a group to give to Speed to Light. Just the other day, and the one up there on the top left. There's a note on it. It says that we gave, it says thank you for giving. It's like over $9,000 that year. $9,000 to Speed to Light, and that was incredible. And it's worked its way up from the bottom was like $1,500, and then it's up to $9,000. Just the other day, I was with Pastor Steve Furr, and they presented this plaque to Remix, and I was there to receive that. And it says, Speed the Light Top 10, third place in the state for giving. Anderson Faith AG, $20,513.56. And that's you guys. That's you guys. That's his family. And I want to thank you for just trusting me over these years when I say give, because lives are being changed. Let's see. Carrie Ann, can you reach that over there? Would you take this and would you put that in that highest, tallest empty box and put that on display? And if you need the help of one of your tall sons, then you can snag one of them. But we're going to put that right over there, right at the top. And we're going to celebrate what God has done through us. That's cool. So that leads me to my next point. You can't outgive God. You can't outgive God. God has blessed this Remix family so much over the years, and I think it has so much to do with our giving and our generosity, because it's like, hey, this isn't really mine anyway. We're going to give to make a difference. He goes on to write, if it's to lead, remember Paul is writing, hey, whatever you're gifted in. So he moves on. He said, if it's to lead, do it diligently. I want to remind you guys that you are leading someone. You are leading someone. Right now, right now where you're sitting, even if you're sitting right over here on this second row, about the second seat in, you are leading someone. You know that? You believe God's created you to be a leader? Do you believe He's created you to be a leader?
I don't know.
I do. I believe He has. I know He has. And so many others in this room. I want you to hear this next part. I want you to... Squirrel! I want you to hear this next part. You are leading someone. You are leading someone by your example, by your likes, by your playlist, by your whatever. You are leading someone by your conversations. And here's the question. What or who are you leading them toward? That's for every single one of us. What or who are you leading them toward? If God has gifted you to lead, if God has created you to be a leader, what or who are you leading them toward? That's so important, because if you're a natural leader, if you're an influencer, you're going to lead, and you're going to lead people somewhere. I want to, I want to say thank you to, just the leaders that we've had, and I want to talk to like our alumni. That are kind of sprinkled throughout, and I want to thank you guys for leading over the years. I don't have time to go into it, and I'm thinking of them right now, and I want to talk about things, and I know that I gotta, but I want to just say thank you for being a leader. I want to thank you for being leaders. I want to thank you for setting the stage for others to be able to grow close to God. That's huge. That's huge. Paul wraps up with this. He says, if it's to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Love must be sincere. He tells them, he says, hate what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in love, and honor one another above yourself. Honor one another above yourself. Honor others above yourself. This is something that I've seen exemplified with our adult leaders. Those in this room and some that have come before them. They have set this example of being sincere and clinging to what is good and being devoted to one another. Not because we all agree 100% on everything either, right? Leaders? You're not? We don't. And there's times that we'll have conversations about things and we're just like, I don't. But you know what is more important than us agreeing? Loving one another and loving you guys It's like, and really, it's so, I mean, we love you guys so much more than we love each other. It's like not even fair. So we do love each other, but it's like it always comes back to, there's somebody that always brings us back to, but the students. But the students. But for the students. It always comes back to that. And so, man, we'll push aside things we don't agree with. And that's okay. So you don't have to run from people or disconnect from people that you don't agree with. Just love them. Show the world what that looks like. You know? Man, the church should be the best at that. We should be the absolute best at that. I want to say thank you real quick, man, our leaders. This brings me to my last thought. I know you've heard this one. Always leave it better than you found it. If anybody has ever... Yeah, there you go. How many of you have rolled your eyes over the years after we got done eating at wherever it was at? You've rolled your eyes because you heard me shout it out. Always come on. Always leave it better than you found it. We would pick up other people's napkins and ketchup packs and straws, and we would wipe down stuff that we didn't mess up because we leave it better than we found it. And that's what these adult leaders, that's what they have done. Adults, I am better than I was before you found me. And this family, this ministry is better than it was before you got here. It is. We've got we've got alumni sitting in here and students sitting in here who are better than when you found them. How incredible is that? And all these things that Paul's talking about. All these things that he's talking about, and he's given warnings and he's given directions and he's saying do this and do that, and we all love to be told what to do, right? And so I have a feeling the church in Rome felt the same way. But he's telling them, and he said, if you will do all of these things, I think it comes down to you are going to leave people better than you found them. You're going to leave a ministry better than you found it. You're going to leave the church and this kingdom of that we're building. You're going to leave it better than you found it if you will do these things and make it about others and all those things. All right, so I get made fun of a lot because I always have a measuring tape on my pocket, and I use it every freaking day, okay? So people make fun of me and they're like, oh, why do you always carry that around? I'm like, because it looks cool. But no, I use it constantly and I get made fun of, and sometimes I forget and I'll come up and I'll have my measuring tape on and you're like, okay, Grandpa, why are you carrying your measuring tape around? But I use it all the time, grew up in construction, whatever. I thought it would be fun to give our leaders something tonight. You're not going to believe it, man. I found measuring tapes with a plain white front on them, and so I was able to add that little Remix logo. And so I have one of these along with a little something else for each of our leaders. And here's what I want, and we kind of make fun of that, but here's the thing. I mean, I want you to use it, wear it out, break it, whatever. I mean, whatever I want you to use it. When you use it, and I want you to be reminded, I know you've heard me say this too, I probably should have thrown that one up there, but I want you to be reminded that God has never and will never measure you by, you'll never be measured by what you do. Okay? And I want students to hear that too. You're not measured by what you do. And that's countercultural too, because everything's conditional. I'll love you if, and you'll be great if. But God just simply measures you by who you are. Being the person of God that He's created you to be. That's how you're measured. Are you, are you close to me? Are you just my child? Do you just love to spend time with me? but that's how he measured. I know we've asked you guys to do a lot of things over the years, and I want to thank you for it, but we'll never measure you by what you've done. Man, and I know God measures you guys just from the example you've set and the integrity that you have and the commit, just who you are. So I want to say thank you. Mitch and Karen, I'm going to give it to Karen, Mitch. Kelly. And I found orange ones. I mean, isn't that just so cool? Carrie Ann. There you go. Now you make sure you wear that right there on your pocket, okay? Tony and Verna. And all right, and Ben, if you're watching, he had to be on vacation. Ben, if you're watching, I got one for you too. Yay, Ben. All right. Our student ministers got something for you guys. We'll track you down afterwards. Okay, we love you and we appreciate you. But we got a little something for you. I want to give you. I'm sorry, Verna. I tried.